Imagine you're steering this heavy wooden sled right across this massive frozen expanse of Arctic ice.
Oh, yeah, and it's brutally cold.
Right, brutally cold. And suddenly you are just completely blinded by a whiteout blizzard. Like you can't even see the terrain 10 feet in front of you.
Let alone see, the hidden crevasses or those paper-thin ice bridges.
Exactly. The one's just waiting to crack under your weight. And in this exact moment, your survival depends entirely on one incredibly counterintuitive concept.
Right.
The dogs pulling your sled must be willing to actively disobey your direct commands.
It's wild to think about.
It really is. So welcome to the deep dive. You are someone who loves a good aha moment, and you want to learn quickly without feeling overwhelmed by just a mountain of data. Today we are pulling from this really fascinating transcript from the VitalPet Podcast's Dog Health Academy.
Yeah, they had some incredibly high-level veterinary and behavioral insights in there.
They really did. So we are decoding the behavior, the psychology, and honestly, the hidden brilliance of the Siberian Husky.
Which, that requires us to completely dismantle everything we think we know about this breed.
Oh, totally.
Because people look at a Husky and they just project this very standard domestic dog template onto them, and that is a massive mistake. The source material we're looking at today moves way past those superficial breed summaries.
Yeah.
It really drills down into the biological and historical mechanisms behind why they do what they do.
And the mission for this deep dive really goes beyond just dog training, right? Like, we want to reframe how you look at the entire concept of stubbornness, not just in animals, but, maybe even in the people around you.
Oh, definitely.
We're exploring how centuries of intense life-or-death survival instincts dictate modern behavior. Okay, let's unpack this. Because the veterinary experts in our source, they give us this incredibly vivid scene to start with.
Oh, the park scene.
Yes. Anyone who has ever been to a local dog park has witnessed it firsthand. So paint the picture for us.
Right. So it's the classic recall failure. An owner is standing across this wide, grassy park. They shout their Husky's name, and the dog freezes.
Yep, I can see it now.
It turns its head, locks eyes with the owner. The ears are up. The posture is super alert. That dog clearly hears the command, processes the auditory signal, and understands exactly what is being asked of it.
And then
Calmly, deliberately, it just turns its head away and goes right back to sniffing a patch of dirt.
oh, man. And the owner's just left standing there absolutely fuming.
Exactly. They're convinced this dog is openly defying them out of just pure stubbornness.
We have all seen that owner. But according to the behavioral experts we are pulling from, that label of defiance or stubbornness is completely inaccurate.
Yeah, it's a fundamental misdiagnosis of the animal's cognitive process. The Husky isn't being defiant, it is making an independent judgment call.
An independent judgment call. Wow.
Right. It's just weighed the command it received from a human against whatever sensory information it was gathering from its environment in that exact moment. And it decided the human's request just wasn't the priority.
Wow.
And to understand why a dog would do that, you have to trace its psychology back to its original occupational hazard in the Arctic.
The sled dogs.
Yeah, the sled dogs. So imagine the mechanics of a sled team. The human, the musher, is standing on the runners all the way at the very back of the sled.
Which is what, like 20 or 30 feet behind the lead dogs?
Often, yeah. So they are steering from the absolute worst vantage point possible. The musher cannot feel those subtle microscopic shifts in the ice tension under the snow.
Right.
And they definitely cannot see a snow-covered crevasse through a blinding wind.
So if the musher yells the command to run straight ahead, but the lead dog senses that the ice patch is unstable, blind obedience would literally kill the entire team.
Precisely. Generation after generation, human survival depended on breeding dogs that possessed a very specific cognitive trait, which they call intelligent disobedience.
Intelligent disobedience. I love that term.
Right. The Huskies that were prized and kept for breeding were the ones capable of evaluating a situation, assessing the environmental danger, and actively overriding a human's instruction if it was the wrong choice.
They were genetically engineered to possess veto power over their handlers.
That is exactly it. Veto power.
It reminds me of an airplane co-pilot who has a clear, unobstructed view of the runway, while the captain's view is somehow blocked.
Yeah.
Right? Like if the captain says land, but the co-pilot clearly sees a fuel truck parked in the middle of the runway, you want the co-pilot to disobey that order.
Absolutely.
You need them to override the captain to save the plane. So when an owner gets mad at a Husky at the park for not coming immediately, are we essentially punishing them for a survival trait that we deliberately put there?
What's fascinating here is how that completely changes our definition of intelligence.
Yeah.
Because we have this societal habit of equating a dog's intelligence with how fast it complies with a command. But these experts point out that Huskies are incredibly quick learners.
They really are.
They process information instantly. They just aren't built to treat a human command as an automatic, non-negotiable law. Their brains are hardwired to evaluate the terrain first.
Which means traditional dog training, like that old school command and comply mentality, it's doomed to fail with this breed.
Oh, it is a profound psychological mismatch. If you bring a command and control approach to a creature whose ancestors survived by asking, is this human making a safe decision right now?
Yeah.
You're just going to hit a wall of frustration. The source transcript emphasizes that training a husky is much more accurately described as a negotiation rather than obedience.
Okay, so what does this all mean for the owner's sanity? I mean, if training is a negotiation, aren't we just bribing the dog? Like, how do you maintain any semblance of authority in your own house if you have to convince your pet to listen to you every single time?
That is the exact pushback the experts hear constantly. But we really have to separate the concept of bribery from the concept of motivation.
Okay, explain that.
Think about the neurology of a breed, like a golden retriever or, say, a border collie. Those dogs were developed to work in a very tight symbiotic partnership with a human.
Right.
So for a retriever, simply pleasing the handler triggers a release of dopamine in their brain. They get neurological satisfaction just from your approval and eye contact alone.
So they're essentially wired to be people pleasers.
Exactly. But a husky's dopamine system operates totally differently. Their satisfaction comes from the activity itself, from forward momentum, from physical exertion, and from solving environmental problems.
Okay.
So when we talk about a negotiation, it isn't bribery. Bribery is a reactive measure. Bribery is waving a piece of cheese in front of a dog's nose to beg them to sit after they have already ignored your command 3 times.
Right, a desperate plea for compliance.
Exactly. Motivation-based training, which the experts stress is mandatory for Huskies, is a proactive framework. It's about understanding that this dog is an independent contractor.
An independent contractor, I like that.
Yeah, so you're using positive reinforcement, whether that's high-value food, a quick game with a favorite toy, or even simply granting them access to go outside to give the dog a compelling, logical reason to cooperate with you. You are paying them a fair wage for a job well done.
So you're setting up a system where cooperating with you happens to be the most rewarding choice they can make in that exact moment.
And this is exactly where first-time owners stumble. They bring in expectations based on previous experiences with handler-focused breeds.
Right.
And when a firm command doesn't work on the husky, the owner assumes the dog just needs more discipline. So they resort to long, repetitive drilling, sit, stay, sit, stay.
Which probably doesn't go over well.
Not at all. See, highly intelligent, problem-solving dog gets bored to tears by repetitive drills. The veterinary advice is to use short, highly engaging sessions. Keep the negotiation crisp and valuable.
Okay, so we've established that they are independent, problem-solving negotiators inside the home. But this mindset obviously doesn't stop at the front door. It dictates exactly how they interact with the physical world outside.
Oh, absolutely.
Which brings us back to that park scene and the massive issue of recall. The source material is remarkably blunt about this. It states that in open, unsecured areas, a husky's recall is rarely reliable.
And importantly, the experts explicitly clarify that a failed recall in an open field is not a training failure. It is a matter of biology.
It's pretty drive, but what is actually happening in the dog's brain when that kicks in?
Well, fast movement is an intense, unignorable trigger for this breed. When a husky sees a rabbit darting into the brush, or a squirrel rocketing up an oak tree, or even just a jogger sprinting past on a trail, it initiates a hardwired predatory sequence.
I like to think of it like a computer's RAM.
Oh, okay.
Imagine your computer's running a bunch of background applications, right? That represents the obedience training you've installed. Then you suddenly launch a massive high-definition video editing program. That's the squirrel. The computer instantly suspends all those background apps to allocate 100% of its processing power to the new high-priority program. The training didn't get deleted. It just got temporarily overridden by a massive system command.
That is a brilliant way to visualize it. The instinct completely hijacks the cognitive processing. The dog literally cannot prioritize your voice over the visual trigger of fleeing prey.
Wow.
That is why the veterinary mandate for this breed is that secure fences and long lines are absolutely non-negotiable. Using a leash doesn't mean you are a bad trainer who failed to establish dominance.
Right.
It means you are a responsible owner managing a biological reality.
Which also explains their legendary, almost mythical reputation as escape artists.
Yeah.
I mean, they will scale 6-foot fences, they will dig under retaining walls, they will contort themselves to slip through the tiniest gaps in a gate.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, it makes perfect sense. Go back to the Arctic terrain again. These dogs were selectively bred to cover massive, sprawling distances every single day. They possess an unyielding, deeply ingrained instinct to move, to explore, and to map out their surrounding environment.
So when a husky finds a loose board in the backyard fence, they aren't thinking, I hate my family, I want to run away.
No, not at all.
They are thinking, oh, a new route to explore. Let's see where this goes.
Exactly. And once their problem-solving brain discovers that escape route, they log that data and they will repeatedly exploit it. The source emphasizes that you cannot try to train the instinct to explore out of the dog.
It doesn't just switch off.
No, it does not switch off. The fix is entirely environmental management. You have to secure the physical perimeter.
Here's where it gets really interesting, though. When we talk about these ancient instincts popping up in very modern settings, we have to talk about the vocalizations.
Oh, the howling.
Yes. Huskies don't really bark like a Labrador retriever, right?
Yeah.
They have that incredibly distinctive, haunting howl, and they absolutely love to do it the second a police siren drives by the house.
It is one of the most fascinating behavioral carryovers from their sled dog days. Again, look at the historical physics of their environment. They traveled in large teams across vast, frozen, windswept distances.
Yeah.
And often, team members or allied packs would be completely out of visual contact with each other in the middle of a whiteout blizzard.
And a standard bark just doesn't have the acoustic power to carry through a snowstorm.
Exactly. A bark is sharp and short. It gets absorbed by the snow and the wind. But a howl is sustained. The acoustic frequency of a howl carries much, much further across the ice.
That makes so much sense.
So howling evolved as their primary long-distance communication tool. When your modern husky hears a fire engine siren or hears a neighborhood dog howling 3 blocks away, it triggers that ancient communication network.
It's like a submarine sending out a sonar ping. They're just checking in with the local network. I hear you, I'm here too. It's not aggression, and it's usually not distress.
It is simply a biological check-in. But, it brings up a critical tension in our relationship with them. Knowing that a husky possesses this massive, hardwired need to run, to hunt, to explore, to problem solve, and to map territory, we have to look at what happens when you take that high-performance primal engine and you park it inside a suburban living room for 10 hours a day.
And according to the veterinary behaviorists, that tension is the birthplace of almost all their behavioral issues, isn't it? Like an unmet physical or mental need in a husky is going to manifest rapidly as destruction.
It is. The sources make a very sharp, crucial distinction here between true separation anxiety and simple boredom. And owners get these two things confused constantly.
Well, I imagine they confuse them because the aftermath looks identical. I mean, you come home from work and your couch cushions have been detonated across the living room.
The visual evidence is the same, sure, but the underlying emotional state of the dog is entirely different. True separation anxiety is a clinical state of panic. It is severe distress that is specifically tied to the owner's absence. The dog is terrified because you left the pack, and the destruction is a frantic response to that fear.
But boredom, on the other hand.
Boredom is just a dog with a massive reservoir of unspent physical and mental energy deciding to employ itself.
Deciding to employ itself.
Yeah, if you do not give a husky a job to do, their problem-solving brain will invent a job. And I guarantee you the job they invent will involve redesigning your drywall, excavating your carpet, or dismantling your furniture.
Okay.
Boredom-driven destruction happens regardless of who is in the house. It is purely a symptom of unmet biological needs.
People love to lump chewed-up shoes or destroyed door frames into this romanticized narrative of, oh, my dog just misses me so much when I go to work. But based on these sources, it sounds like the dog is just utterly understimulated.
Pretty much.
Are we routinely misdiagnosing their emotional state, like calling it anxiety, just to flatter ourselves?
That is a very sharp observation, and the behaviorists agree. Humans have a very strong tendency to anthropomorphize. We project our own emotional narratives onto our pets.
Right.
It feels better for an owner to believe their dog is destroying the house out of an overwhelming love and attachment to them, rather than facing the uncomfortable reality that they simply haven't provided the animal with enough mental stimulation.
So how do you actually fix the boredom? We know physical exercise is mandatory, but you can't run a dog for 8 hours a day.
This is where mental enrichment becomes just as important as physical exercise. The veterinary sources suggest utilizing their problem-solving skills.
Like what?
This means using complex puzzle feeders instead of just dumping kibble in a bowl. It means setting up scent games where they have to sniff out hidden toys around the house. It means providing high-value, structured chew items that require focus and jaw strength to break down.
Oh.
You have to tire out their mind, not just their legs. A mentally exhausted husky is a well-behaved husky.
Though the sources do add a disclaimer, right? Like if an owner is witnessing severe distress, self-injury, or frantic panic when they leave, they really need to consult a vet or a qualified behaviorist. Leave the serious clinical diagnostics to the professionals.
Absolutely. Don't guess when it comes to true panic disorders.
Now let's look at the social dynamic inside the house. Because they are hardwired as pack animals, how does a husky actually fit into a human family structure?
Generally speaking, they integrate beautifully. That strong, ancestral, pack-oriented nature makes them remarkably tolerant and affectionate, which actually makes them great with kids.
Ah, that's good to hear.
However, the sources add a vital caveat here. Their sheer physical size and their exuberant, bouncing energy requires constant adult supervision. They aren't aggressive with children, but a 60-pound dog can easily knock a toddler down just by turning around too fast in the hallway.
A happy accident is still an accident.
Exactly, and that same pack mentality usually means they do quite well in multi-dog households. They inherently understand canine social structures and generally enjoy the company of other dogs.
But then there's the cat question, the ultimate test of the indoor ecosystem.
This raises an important question about how much of a dog's prey drive can truly be managed around smaller pets. The experts in our source are very firm on this. Huskies and cats are highly case by case, and it leans toward risky.
Because of that visual movement trigger we broke down earlier, the computer RAM override.
Exactly. To a husky's brain, a cat darting rapidly across the hallway looks an awful lot like a rabbit darting across a field. It triggers the exact same predatory sequence.
Wow.
Safe cohabitation requires incredibly gradual introductions, rigorous early socialization if you get the dog as a puppy, and above all, brutal honesty from the owner. You cannot just cross your fingers, put them in a room together, and assume it will work out because they are both your pets.
Right.
You have to objectively, coldly evaluate your individual dog's prey drive.
Don't let hope blind you to instinct. That is fantastic advice for any pet owner. So, looking at the entire spectrum of this deep dive, from the blinding icy trails of the Arctic to the living room couch, from howling at fire engines to negotiating for a puzzle feeder, what is the ultimate takeaway here?
The experts distill it down to a single guiding philosophy. Husky ownership is entirely about cooperation, not control.
Cooperation, not control.
If you try to dominate them or force them into a mold of blind obedience, you will both be miserable. Building a successful partnership with an intelligent, independent thinker requires immense patience. It requires consistency across the entire household so the dog understands the rules of the negotiation.
Yeah.
And it requires finding rewards that the dog actually values. When you commit to those things, you aren't just getting a dog to sit on command. You are building deep mutual trust with a creature that was bred to survive the harshest conditions on Earth.
It's a masterclass in managing any complex relationship. It teaches you that when someone or some creature isn't complying with your demands, they might not be acting out of malice or stubbornness.
Exactly.
They might just have a completely different set of intrinsic motivations. They might just have a very different view of the terrain ahead. And I want to leave you, our listener, with a final thought to chew on today. We've seen how the Siberian Husky was selectively bred over centuries to possess superior situational awareness and the supreme confidence to override human error in life or death situations. So what other modern jobs or scenarios might this highly intelligent, non-compliant decision-making be perfectly suited for today, outside of pulling a sled? Just something to think about the next time you see a husky evaluating its options. Until next time, keep digging deeper.